we're broadcasting.
All right. We can start. It's John's here. How's it going?
Swell.
Swell is good. Who else is swell? Swell's good. All right. So you guys got through the first week. Really good work this week. I had fun reading everything that you guys did. Who here felt like they got everything done this week in a good manner? And who tried to squeeze it in at the end? To be honest, yeah. Did it work?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So, general advice, don't let the stuff slide. Just as a reminder, this is what really works for me for tracking the blogs, Google Reader. If you're not familiar with using Google Reader, let me know. I did a little tutorial on how to load up all the blogs in here, but it's the best way to be able to see things at a glance. So, back of the room. That's the back of the room. The back of the room's good. Check out the view. So we're doing good. Some people still need to get more regular with their commenting on the blog, so I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm not counting the comments, and although I gave an example of on my blog, you know, I'm not expecting you to list every comment that you replied to, but when we have our face-to-face meetings and we're talking about your participation, I could be like, you know, I won't pick on Colin, but I could just say, you know, I really haven't seen your comments. Where's that action happening? And you have to be able to tell me if it's not very obvious. So that's going to count. One thing, and I sort of changed this up, is that initially I said it's okay to blog your daily creates as you go if you want to keep track of it. The problem that we have is on the ds106 site, there's so many things coming in because there's a couple hundred people doing this, that it becomes hard to follow if just you get these little stubs that come in that says, you know, this is my, this is my funny burrito picture from today. So we're asking that you refrain from doing your daily creates as you do them. Maybe keep track of them. Someone had a really good suggestion of, I think Annie Bell in the other class, of starting a blog post but keeping it in draft in WordPress, so you can just add to it as you do your work, and that way you don't have to do your recap all mass at the end of the week, but every time you do something, go to that draft post, add a little bit to it. The other thing is that we're tracking, some people have already started doing tutorials, and I will send this as a reminder in the email again, but we also want you to tag them ds106 tutorials so we can pull all those into the main site. So it could include things that aren't necessarily assignments, etc. And just want to let people know that I really like the way Greg, well, he has this herky-jerky animated GIF, but he did a really thorough job on documenting what he did this week, and it's really good. So he kind of reposted everything, but also add a little bit of reflection on that, and I like to see that. Again, how you do this is up to you. Justin did the same thing. He's got the photos that he did, and then he gets down and actually lists a little bit about the assignments and did a little bit of comment tracking. Again, you don't have to do it like everybody does it. Find the best way that tracks your work for you. Again, because you got to be able to show me, these are the assignments I did, and these are the daily creates I did. So get it done in an organized fashion. Today, we're going to talk about design, and we have a guest speaker, Tim Owens, who's going to come into us via Skype, and he's going to talk about design in more detail. Design is a very broad topic, and I'm just going to go through a couple elements of design. I'm not going to explain them all, and then we're going to do an activity related to design, and then we're going to have Tim come in around 6:20 or 6:25. Design is not necessarily my expertise, but if you think about it, we're kind of surrounded by things. Everything you interact with every day. Your car is designed. This building is designed. The way these lights are in the ceiling, they're not just random. People make specific decisions. And there's a classic book by a guy named Donald Norman who had this design of everyday things. And if you look at the cover, is that a practical teapot? So when you see things like that, and he talks a lot about doors. It's kind of funny that someone writes a book that includes a lot about doors and door handles. But he has this concept known as affordances, and that means when you interact with this object, and you can't see it too well here, but it has push on the text, but it's a door you have to pull. And you're usually aware of these design flaws when you get stuck in one of those doors that doesn't behave like you expect it would. And that's a bad design. And someone else has this example. There's this building that has this two-door passageway. And these doors with handles suggest pull, and you pull them open. But when you get to the other end, you're kind of lost as what to do. And people actually get trapped in here because they actually have to push them. And so the design of just the doors is something that gets in the way of people able to do things. When I travel, I come across some really strange showers in hotels. Like if a shower needs this much explanation, there's probably something wrong with the interface if it needs that much signage. So all the stuff we interact with every day has some aspect of that. Does the object or the thing tell you how it works? The window has sort of a handle on it and gives you some indication about how you open it. But I don't know about you, I've had some windows where I can't really figure out how to open it, just because the design and the way I expect it to work are not in match. Another key element that we'll look at a lot is just the choice of color. It's not really random. And in this kind of old style with these pastel colors, it sort of makes a suggestion about the era that it came from, as well as this one is more of sort of like a hippie 60s feel. So the choice of color says a lot. And I'm just looking around the room at these posters that are on the wall here. If you look at that life poster, I mean, we've seen that assignment. There's a color splash, right? Drawing attention to the red color. So there's specific design decisions that go into all these posters about the use of colors, what the color means, and there's a whole field of color theory. So room colors, we make conscious choices to have rooms with accents. Here's another ad. And you'll see a lot of this design theory in advertisements. It's a black and white, but look, it's got that color splash. And I don't know about you, but once I became aware of that, I start noticing that in use in many places, and it's one tool that you can pull out. The other thing you're dealing with is the topography in designs, and a lot of your assignments that you're going to do this week have different plays on design. So you may know, on your computer you've got serif fonts that have the little do-hangies on it. The sans serif fonts that are more clean, there's monospace fonts, and there's sort of script fonts. And there's things, there's reasons for choosing different fonts. There's reasons why you want to combine certain fonts and why you don't want to combine certain fonts. There's a lot of blog posts about how awful it is to use Comic Sans. Has anybody come across that? Just that, it's a little bit snobbery, but people sort of said you're kind of juvenile if you use Comic Sans. And there's some funny videos about never use Comic Sans. So typography, it's not just random. You choose fonts for a certain reason, and you want to pay attention to fonts. There's a concept sort of known as minimalism, so expressing something in less instead of more. And I've always loved the Volkswagen ads from the 60s. And they went pretty radical with doing this. Like, who would ever print, at that time, a giant page ad and waste all that space and just put nothing there? But Volkswagen did some really innovative things in the forms that they're advertised. They experimented, and I don't know if you guys watch Mad Men, but they sort of, they're in the advertising business in the 60s, and they're like, they don't understand this form because this came it came away from Madison Avenue where all the advertising was going on, and Volkswagen was kind of radical. They had that one ad where they put the beetle in the middle of the center, and a big text underneath that said lemon. How is that working? But when you look at the whole ad, it's a concept that works. There's a whole sort of realm of minimalistic designs in sort of representing things iconically. Here representing analog in terms of the tape that actually threads on the old projectors, which you guys may have never seen. But does anybody remember projectors like that? I did that. So, and there's a lot of interesting things that are done in sort of getting a message as simple, using symbols. So I think you can decipher, what this is. Don't just copy things, create something new. Again, this is sort of the play on the font things. People who are real designers never use Arial, apparently. Does everybody use Arial? Does everybody think Arial's cool? I'm not really that hepped up on whether one font is better, but there's a lot of people who really go to extremes on that. And then also, symbols come into metaphors. This one is pretty recognizable. But when you think about it, if you just look at the elements, I mean, it's a ball, and it's about 4 sticks, but you recognize that as a human, and we know the difference between, hopefully, the symbol for the men's room and the women's room. Although I once had an eye exam where I got that mixed up, but that's another story. And this whole field of things that represent, in sort of this compact form, other things, is kind of interesting, and you're going to get a chance in some of the design assignments to sort of do things like distill a movie down to 4 of these kind of icons. And it's an interesting concept to be able to express things in this minimalistic form. And often there's just things, different ways to represent. So this poster for The Dark Knight, putting the Batman paired with the Joker together and representing that split personality is done completely graphically. And if you think about maybe what the color tones there suggest, they're a little bit off on the Joker side, representing his personality. This one, which you probably can't see very well, there's a movie about a font. It's a documentary about the font of Helvetica, and if you're really into typography, I highly recommend it. But they've put it like on the hills of like the Hollywood sign, so they're using what's recognizable as a metaphor of the words Hollywood and inserting their own symbols there as a metaphor. And just the whole sort of the way something feels. So this is, I think, a web designer's site, and it just has this sort of whole retro feel with sort of the pastel colors again, smoking the cigarettes. This looks right out of the 60s. So thinking about what you want your image to suggest. For some people, this has the allure of going back to an age of coolness, if you will. So that was just a little run through really quickly. When Tim comes on, he's going to explain these in more detail and sort of talk about the concept of design. But I wanted to try another activity like we did with the photos. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to actually get up out of your chairs. And this might be hard, but based upon the things I've been trying to talk about, look around either this room at some of these posters or things out in the hallway, and try just to find some things that represent different use of typography or colors, or even get around to looking at door handles and see if they really suggest what their function is. So just try to find a few different examples of design, those design elements around our space here. Take some pictures or maybe make some notes. What we're going to do when we come back and during Tim's talk is a little bit of an experiment. That link that I have is going to go to, this is an open Google Doc. You don't even need a Google account to edit it. And what I want you to do is when you bring back your examples, add it to this document. There's some headings for these different design elements. And in Tim's talk today, I want you, as you're listening, to start putting some notes in there. And what's going to happen here is I've seeded it with a few things and a few resources, but take some notes, and this will become our class reference. So instead of me making it for you, you're going to build it as we go through our lesson tonight. So there's some things on typography, metaphors, and symbols. So, and put things like your pictures into this document. So try to find some examples of this thing in our space around you, and then we'll come back and start putting in this document and see if we can get this done maybe by 6. I'll see.
Alan, what are we going to tag it in Flickr?
You can tag it Design Blitz.
Design Blitz?
Yeah. Yeah, if you put your stuff in Flickr, it's fine too. Is everybody clear what we're doing? Looking for design elements. And really look closely. I mean, try to see, especially with typography, there's a lot of, it's not only the choice of font, but the size, the placement, the spacing, words being pulled apart, script things, etc. So try to find what's designed around here. Even these, desks are designed to some degree.
I was listening to you.
Okay. Yeah, just find something that illustrates some aspect of either typography, color, or just whether something like that door handle tells you how it works. That one's a little bit more complex. But look for color, typography, symbols. You know, like Beauty and the Beast back there, you know, they represent sort of that icon. So, I mean, all these posters are full of symbols.
I feel like it's easier in here now.
Yeah. There's a lot in here, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
get people out of the chairs a little bit. So who's got theirs in there? Yeah. What'd you take a picture of, Tiffany, or what'd you find?
A failed functioning water fountain that shot me in the eye because I didn't know how to use it.
So you expected the water to come this high and it hit you in the face.
There's no button, so I didn't know how it worked, and like I don't know.
Dribble, and it's got 3 B's in it. So it's DRIBBBLE. But this is where designers go, and they just basically say what they're working on with a little screenshot. And it's supposed to be like 400 by 300 pixels, just a small little rectangle. Sometimes it's really zoomed in close, but you get an idea of what really, aspiring designers and really well-known designers are all working on right now. And it's a great place to find inspiration for, what looks good visually and what is a good design thing. So I would encourage you to check out all of that stuff and start playing around with it. That's basically in a nutshell all I wanted to cover for you, unless people have questions for me.
Thanks, Tim.
No problem.
Does anybody have questions about design? Who feels like they're an artist? They're not an artist. I'm not an artist.
You'll get there. I mean, the question that people always have by this point is like, okay, so if I make an animated GIF, how does that make me an art? What's the point, right? Like, why am I doing all of this? And the thing is, like, it's all a means towards an end. And by making the animated GIF, you might come out with something that looks really nice, or you may just come out with something that's so-so, but by using those tools, it stretches you further. So treat everything as an exercise in that regard, and everything is something that you can use down the road. You may not end up using an animated GIF for your next assignment, but you may have a better understanding of how layers work in a program. So take what you can from each assignment and try to do something different with it instead of just doing the first thing that comes to mind. Really trying to think outside of the box in that regard.
What do you think, in your experience from last year, what were some of the most interesting, or what would be a good assignment for people to start with to get their feet wet?
Yeah. One that I find that is really accessible, I think, is like a minimalist poster. So minimalism is really big right now, and that's sort of this idea, again, of taking something really complex and making it really simple. So, for example, there's an assignment in the assignment bank called Minimalist Movie Posters. And they're really simple to do because, like, you take your favorite movie and then you try and think of what element or elements are the key points in the movie. You'll actually see some of these show up on the main ds106 site. 4 of them show up in that top header at one point. And, I think one of them is Inception, one of them is The Thing, which actually Jim Groom there did. And so the idea is that you try and pick out some feature from that movie that's like the main core component of it. And then you can just find these icons, these basic shapes or whatever to put this together. But it's very simple. It doesn't have to have a whole lot of color. The whole point of it is that it's minimalist. So you're taking out a whole lot of the extra stuff. It shouldn't take you hours to do in Photoshop. So that's the nice thing is when you have design assignments like that, where the whole point is to not, you want to put some work into it, but the whole point of it is that you don't have to be, drawing or painting or doing a whole lot of complex work to it, and you're boiling it down to its very basic thing.
So let's say you did Inception. Where would you start with that movie, putting you on the spot?
Well, I could cheat and use the one someone already did.
But like your thinking process, how do you start?
Okay, so my thinking process, and I actually have not seen Inception all the way through, so that might be a little difficult for me, but if you've seen the movie, you try and think of key elements of it. So they were talking about dreaming, they were talking about being caught in dreams. but there was one object that he continually pulled out, and I forget what they called it, like their marker or their way of knowing whether they were in reality or not. And for him, it was just this little like spinning top. So that top for him was a key element of the movie. When he pulled it out, you knew what it was, and it's a very visual thing. For someone who's seen the movie, that shape, of the spinning top is a very, immediate eye catcher. So the first thing you want to do is see, where can I find a shape like that? Again, I mentioned the Noun project. That has some very basic shapes. Stick figure type people, things of that nature. But what you might have to do is draw it yourself. So you could use Photoshop or Illustrator or Aviary, any of these tools to basically draw out that shape. Similar to how, with the fat cat assignment, you're used to cutting out the cat out of its background. Well, this is the same idea in reverse. You're going to draw a shape and get it to where you want it. And then after that, you basically want to find a color palette that you can use for your thing. I mentioned that color website. That would be a perfect place to look at different color palettes and see what you want. Pick out the colors that you want and figure out where you're going to put that main featured section on your movie poster. Maybe you're going to have it off to the side and have it running off of the page. Again, that's using balance and using contrast to make things interesting on the movie poster. So figure out the placement of it, where's the flow of how you lay out the things on your movie poster, and then you add some text. And again, typography comes into play here. If you use Times New Roman, the poster's not going to look all that great, because Times New Roman is meant for, a 5-page essay paper. It's not really meant for like headline text. There's a website called Dafont, which is dafont.com. I love this website because you can actually they have thousands and thousands of fonts for you to use, and you can actually type in words and it will show you what those fonts would look like with those words in place before you even download it and install these fonts. So it's a great place to try out some stuff. They have them broken into sections, so maybe you want something that has sort of a Halloween, ghoulish type theme to it. You can look at all the fonts that are specifically that type of typeface. And then you can download the one that you want after you've tried it out and figured that this will work well, and then use it in your design. So think of things like that: the imagery, the color, where you lay it out, and then the typeface that you use. All of those coming together can work for a really good design.
All right. I've been suggesting, some people are using different graphics programs, but to me, with the design assignments, you really want something that you can work with in layers. Can you talk about that a little bit, why that's important?
Yeah, layers are important for a couple reasons. So we all make mistakes, and most programs are going to have an undo button, but at some point you kind of want to break out the different elements of what you're working with. And layers make it a whole lot easier because you can set, going back to your Inception poster, you can have the text for the poster on one layer, and then you can have the icon on another layer, and then you can have the background doing some crazy stuff all the way at the bottom. And so you can adjust each of those individually. If I want to adjust the color of the background, I'm not adjusting the text color at the same time. So that's why it's really important, is because you're breaking those things into their individual elements, which also works well just at its very basic in terms of layering things on top of each other and the way that gets laid out on the screen.
Awesome, good stuff.
Yeah. And Aviary will do layers. I mean, it's that's online, it's completely free, so you don't necessarily have to pay for something. GIMP will do it as well, and that's free software as well. So you don't have to pay for Photoshop in order to do some of the more advanced stuff. Photoshop is obviously really nice, but it's a little bit like bringing a Lamborghini. It's a whole lot, and there may be a lot of things there that you won't even take advantage of if this is your first time using an image editor, so you may be just as well with GIMP or Aviary. So play around with what you got.
Awesome. Last chance for questions for the graphics expert art major from his bed. Thanks a lot for joining us, Tim, and I definitely will share those resources. It was very valuable last year.
Awesome. See y'all later.
Take care, Tim.
Bye.
Tim is super creative and good at this stuff, and I definitely encourage you, if you have questions, come back to him. I do want to give a little foreshadowing to what is going to come for this week. So like this past week, we're asking you to do the daily creates again, just so you keep this rhythm of doing photographs and thinking about it every day. After this week, we'll go back to doing 3 per week, so that the level of doing those daily creates will fall off, but we just do that on purpose to keep you in that visual mindset. There's also going to be a new batch of assignments. These come from a different category. These are in the design category, and we're going to have a chance to take a look at them in some detail in a few minutes. But there's some new ones that are here that have come on the list. There's these funky, I don't know if you've come across the animated GIFs. You see these a lot in ds106. It's not exactly a video. It's basically a graphic file format that has different frames, but it plays like a video. And you could watch Jim like repeat that action. You probably wouldn't try.
And if you don't do this assignment, I'm going to troll your blog.
Yeah, Jim is a nut about the animated GIF, and it's a real fascinating sort of form, in a way sort of the minimalist in terms of isolating an action down to this basic series. And some folks here, I know Rosanna has already done some really good ones. And they've already, there were a couple animated GIFs in the visual, and there's a little bit of slop in what's a visual and what's a design assignment. There's some of these simple ones. Bad guy business cards.
This is awesome.
It's a lot of fun. So design a business card for a gangster or the Godfather or somebody, and think about what would be on their calling card. So it's more thinking about what the character is and what sort of elements are going to go in there.
And that's based in real ones. Like there were gangs in Chicago that actually handed out business cards. Like, we're going to kill you next week. Here's my business card.
Yeah, a couple more animated ones, comic book covers and movie posters. This one, Iconic You, represent yourself in a real simple form. So think of something that's essential, about you. So, Jim submitted this. What was the meaning of the ears?
It's just an example.
Yeah.
Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse.
And so, again, there's about 40 of these assignments. Again, the minimalist travel poster means you have a movie that takes a place, so you design a travel poster to go to Mordor, or whatever movie that you pick is really interesting. How would you advertise that in sort of the simple form of just kind of shapes and some text? What the font, I've been brave enough to do this, but forming sort of a picture out of just letters and fonts at different angles. And who did that one that's on there? That's a student who did that one?
No, that one's like a designer.
That's a designer.
That's maybe one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. So in this one, because they're a little bit more complex, you're going to find ones like Spreadsheet Invasion, which uses this technique to do animation inside of Excel, which I don't know if you ever thought about Excel as being a way to do animation. I've never done it, but there is a way to create things where the cells change colors and you create a movie out of it. It's a little bit harder, so that's a 4-star. So a lot of these are going to take a little bit more work, so we're upping the ante to doing 15 stars worth of design work this week. Because they're worth more, it could be the same number of things that you did, but again, they're going to take a little bit more effort. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is sort of, to get a flavor of what these assignments are, is maybe just get in some groups of 4 where you're sitting and go through these and start talking about the assignments and start saying, look at the examples and just have a little discussion why you would choose to do a particular assignment and maybe what it's going to take to do it. And if you say, wow, I don't know enough about using GIMP or whatever tools I have, just kind of help each other out with some suggestions as to what it's going to take to do some of these assignments. And this might give you a foothold on how to start already. I know, Tim, which one did you do, Tim?
The really reality TV one.
Okay, and how does that one work?
That one, you just kind of go to a random TV name generator, grab that, you put that into a Google search, go to the 5th hit, grab the first paragraph from that, and then go to the 10th hit and grab the last paragraph from that. And then, sort of taking the title and the 2 descriptions you have, you go to the Creative Commons and find a setting for your TV show, protagonist, and like an action or something that happened in the show.
So there's a bit of a formula to get you going, but you have to sort of be creative with how you use those elements. So
like the album.
Yes, the album. And also, I do want to mention in terms of editing, I don't know if this will come off the wall, but no, it doesn't. But there's some skills, and I'd be willing to show you this. I like doing this stuff. Like sometimes with the movie posters, I actually will start with an existing poster, but I want to give this one a different title. So there's some things you can do. I know in Photoshop and in GIMP, there's this tool called the clone tool. And it's a little bit tedious, but you go in the background and you sort of stamp this as the area that I'm going to copy from, and you start brushing over this, and you get rid of the words, and it allows you to replace the words and sort of redo the movie poster. And you may want to say, okay, I'm going to take her face out and put Yoda's face in there. So this whole concept of sort of taking something to begin with is going to require you to get good with your selection tools, your brush tools. You want to find out how you can use the brush tools that have a little bit of a feathered edge so you don't get real jagged lines. And with this stuff, again, the layered part is a little bit easier to use because instead of trying to cut this out and paste in something exact, I will find the photo that I want to do here, I'm going to put it in a layer on top and then start erasing around it to make it so it more fits in with that image. And that's why getting used to using these tools with the layer editing becomes a lot more efficient, and you can actually do quite a bit more because the layers allow you to put some filters down as well. So let's have a little discussion just amongst yourself and sort of start cherry picking which design assignments you might find and see if you have any questions about them. I'm familiar with most of them. I've looked at them. I've done a number of them, and I can give you my suggestions about which ones might be interesting. Judging by what you guys have done already, you're probably not going to have any trouble. But clear what we're doing? A little discussion, and then we'll just wrap up again at 7:15. I know some people said they had to go a little early. That's fine, but all clear what we're doing this week?
Yeah.
Daily shoots, 15 points. Don't wait till Saturday. Get some stuff out of the way. On Wednesday, we'll do some more stuff. We'll actually do a lot of this hands-on, so you get some time to work on these in class. So you should be able to knock out one or two on Wednesday as well. All right, pick some assignments.
That was fun. It's like producing. The only thing that was not that I'm bummed about is about at some point I got all at the beginning and then we were going to introduce Tim.
Yeah.
It didn't record. Stop recording here. So almost like 10 minutes into the talk I realized it wasn't
recording.
So I went on top of it. So I got everything. There was like a 10-minute
So like the button wasn't the button.
I looked here and this wasn't downloaded. Or I must have, maybe I hit the button and not hit it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I trust the little buttons.
Yeah. So everything else, so but the actual production of it, I think, was nice.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it.
And then you can literally put lyrics from the song. I could just get 2 stars. I'm going to do that.
Oh, really? Yeah. But I'm going to do that. I kind of want to do this free brand.
Yeah, just
Yeah, was that hard to do?
I knocked it out, in 2 hours before I came to class.
Is that like cancer?
Just a matter of finding.
Again, if you think these assignments suck, make one up.
Yeah. Always.
Because you need to know what any of
3 stars for it.
Yeah, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
if you have like him or something, what I did is I just copied and pasted them in there and adjusted accordingly. And just
I assume that's how it goes.
start the game with a white background. It's really transparent. Yeah, it should be up. Blog, whatever, blast.
What?
That's really weird.
I was just waiting for
I
that.
don't know where it was, but
Okay.
where that guy comes from, like, oh, I just don't want to miss.
page.
Don't worry about it. Just measure the number of characters.
Insert a random. Someone did it and they put, oh yeah, this guy put himself through so many places. He's there, walk up there, stay right there. Oh, that's awesome. He's right in there. Yeah.
Is that the 3 Chinese dudes?
Who's that? Yeah, this guy. That's so great.
So there's this one's like 3 floating Chinese bureaucrats. And they find them, that's like a big meme on the internet, right? It's like where this guy comes. Although that seems more like a visual than a design. That's really kind of weird. Okay. Like the kind of I love that one. I actually decided I'm going to do this one. You can do an effect like that, like sketch on Photoshop, but what I would do if I were you is find examples of like sketch drawings like this and take pieces, and then do the effects around them. A lot of design I find is scavenging and stealing. So you go and you find design elements or places where they've done well, and you take pieces that you think of, you come up with the concept, you say, I want to do a play-by-play Da Vinci of, making a cocktail. And so you find the elements of the cocktail, and then you just kind of filter them or change them to make them look old and sketch drawn, and then you put it. But you actually think of the concept first, and then you go to. Someone did a great one about catching a mouse.
Do well. Yeah.
Last semester was awesome.
What do you have for kind of small?
I use something like
Okay.
Okay, let me show you.
That's fine. I figured
Hold
that.
on, let me get it.
Okay. If you can, yeah, because your pictures will look a little better if we can see a little bit larger size.
Yeah.
But you're doing okay with
I
it?
love that. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. In fact.
I don't know. Yeah, it looks really
So what you can do, let's see if anyone's done this yet.
Oh,
Which one's that?
Well, this one, did you watch it?
No one has submitted it so far?
Yeah, I was surprised by that too.
So these are a little more complex, right?
there's a lot for you.
Let's see where it is.
Alright.
Yeah.
Then knock it out in no time.
Alan. Okay. Let me find it here. It's going to take me a second. See if I know someone did a tutorial on it. I don't know why it's not showing up.
Okay, just let me know.
There's somewhat of a move in education to be able to provide like some credentials, like getting these little icons that present works you've been able to accomplish. So, you major travel writing. So, like, if you accomplish some feat of travel writing, design a badge that might represent it. So maybe it's like, hands on an outline map of the world. So for some skill that you might be able to do, let's say you want to get the American so just kind of represent
Animate a scene, description, colors, Excel was supposed to do. Yeah. Is it like high picture Flickr? I was thinking the Flickr badges and
yeah. There's we have to clean up some of these because occasionally.
Well, that was for the summer of Oblivion. I don't know how relevant it is now. It was just like fake professor. So there was actually narratives. Abby could tell you about it.
My roommate said that there was like a fake guy there for the first few days.
Yeah.
And when she told me that, I thought he was a fake person and he was going to just disappear and never show up here.
Oh, you thought he was actually going to be the fake person?
I thought he was.
So, yeah.
I thought he was going to disappear. I thought you were going to be, the day he showed up, I thought you were going to be in class and be like, I don't know what happened to him. Like, I thought that's what was going to happen.
We probably should have played it a little bit like that.
It would have been fun.
We didn't really, can't do it stories.
Yeah, well, it's always because you're by the seat of your pants. Like this summer, we actually didn't. I tried to not do the story anymore because I started to get so freaked out. But then everyone in my office was like, "Well, just pretend like he disappeared." That's the missing posters.
I really thought that's what was going to happen to him.
That's a
After
good.
she
We
said
should have
that-
done that.
After she said that, I
Yeah.
thought he was just going to disappear.
That would have been awesome.
Well, I was worried about getting here, but
Yeah,
we didn't
exactly.
really make a story out of it. So an example of a minimalist poster, this is from a movie called Cool Hand Luke, where there's just an expression, night in the box. You do something bad, you get a night in the box. But they try to do it up as like it's a travel ad to want to go to this Florida swamp. So they're trying to make it kind of attractive. So it's changing a little bit of the element of the movie, but again, zeroing in on some aspect of a movie is an interesting process to figure out what represents it.
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Justin, what's your Twitter handle?
Justin Baker,
Okay.
26.
You're the 26th one to get in there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
All right, did that help to sort of get a sense about which of these assignments might be worth doing? All right. If you folks need some help, especially if you're not really comfortable with the graphics editing program, check in with me. I'm learning GIMP a little bit. I know Photoshop pretty well inside and out, and I'm learning GIMP at the same time. And also, there'll be a lot of resources. I'm going to add some more resources to that design document. Again, one that comes in handy for doing these posters, there's one called What the Font. And if like you're trying to reproduce a movie poster and you're trying to match the text that they use, you can actually upload a graphic of a word if you do a little screenshot. And you upload it to this site, and actually can help you identify a font that is the font or matches it. So getting those elements just is going to make your work that much more interesting if you can sort of reproduce the font and the style of the original piece of art. All right, let's get out there and make some more art, some more 15 stars work.